Hi, Reverend Chris here, and this is another one of First Church's daily inspirational messages. And these messages are based off of the sermon this past Sunday, which I preached on the idea of building your life on what Jesus says, and then doing it. It's based off of Matthew 7:24-29 at the end of Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. And we talked a little bit at the sermon about, of course we want to do, as a disciple of Jesus, what we want to hear what Jesus says and then do it. But then it's the question of how do we actually know that it's Jesus speaking to us? And I talked about how in order to know that it's Jesus speaking to us, we need to know the character of that God who's speaking to us. And, in reading through myself through the whole Bible, the Old Testament and the New, I am convinced that the essence of the character of God is really grace. My wife Amanda and I, we have a daughter, a 5-year-old daughter, Amelia, and we were reading one of those children's storybook Bibles. And as we were reading, we came across the word grace. And then Amelia, as we were reading, Amelia asked us, well, what is grace? And, my wife Amanda and I were fumbling around trying to give the most pious answers, thinking, grace is something that God gives to us, but it's not merited, and, it's something based off our sins, but Jesus forgives our sins, and, trying to say all these things. And then, as we were fumbling around, Amelia, our daughter, just interrupts and says, grace is another word for gift. Grace is another word for gift. And honestly, we were just silenced. We were floored. That's perfect. Now it turns out that she copied that from another storybook Bible, but we'll give her it, right? I mean, that is just spot on. That grace is another word for gift. And because the character of God is of grace, that means what God says to us is a gift, right? The character of our God is one whose love and mercy is not earned, but is a gift, a generous gift even. And so, for today, I just want us to meditate on that idea of God's grace. That everything that God gives to us is indeed a gift. And however we go in the world and whatever we do, we just remember that we are held together by the fact that God chooses to gift us with God's grace. That God chooses to love us and give us mercy. Alright, thank you. See you tomorrow.